Thank you very much. I will then open the floor for members of the committee and the subject matter committee members to ask you questions, and you provide answers to those questions. Honorable members, we shall proceed to ask the nominee questions. The ranking member would like to ask his questions out of 10. Normally, he's the second to last to do so, but because of a pressing need, he wants to take the floor first. Honorable members, I have granted that leave, so accordingly, I will give the floor to the ranking member and the minority leader to start with his questions. So, Honorable Ranking, you have the floor.
Honorable Mr. Nominee, do you know anybody by name Eko Emisa?
Mr. Chair, my name is also Eko Emisa. I was born on a Thursday and named after my great-grandmother, who was called Emisa.
On your school certificate, share with us the full name you have on it.
My O and A level certificate states the name Michael Harry Yamson.
What about your university?
My university certificate also states Michael Harry Yamson.
Now, I have given you a document, a 2-page document. Please, first, are you in possession of it? I sent it to you through the clerk.
I am in possession of it.
You are in possession?
Yes.
Now, this 2-page document, was it authored by you?
It was authored by my office.
Are you becoming aware of this document as authored by your office for the first time, or you've always been aware?
I've been aware of it for some time.
Very well. That being the case, look at page 2 of the said document. Are you there with me, please?
I am.
If you are there with me, then read the content under experience. Read.
Under experience, it says Administrator of District Assembly's Common Fund, Government of Ghana, February 2025 to present. Advisor to the Board, Unichem Ghana Group, 2022 to present. Ishmael Yamson and Associates, full-time, 16 years, 1 month. Board member. It also says Senior Managing Partner, Senior Partner and Managing Officer, and then Board member.
That is enough. That is enough. Let's start. Are you the administrator of the Common Fund?
I'm the acting administrator, Mr. Chair.
Whence cometh your authority as an administrator, acting administrator of the Common Fund?
By the nomination of the President, Mr. Chair.
Are you in possession of the letter that nominated you as the acting administrator of the Common Fund?
I'm in possession of it, but not here.
So, clarify for public records. But I'll first give you the benefit of the background of my question. His Excellency the President, in a letter to Parliament, tells us that he is submitting through us your nomination and seeks our support by way of this constitutional exercise you are undertaking. Are you saying that on the basis of this nomination, you assumed office?
Mr. Chair, I was given an initial letter that indicated that I would be acting as the administrator of the District Assembly's Common Fund. I believe the letter you are referring to is a subsequent letter that followed.
So, have you become aware of this subsequent letter? If so, is it today that you become aware that you've always known that there was a subsequent letter?
Mr. Chair, I became aware of the subsequent letter, I think 2 days ago.
Chairman, with your leave, I will be pleased to have that letter that the nominee says he received to enable him assume that office for records, because the procedure we know it to be is that His Excellency will write to Parliament for Parliament to approve the process, and in view of that you go and do your work. And in fact, Right Honorable Speaker himself, although had annulled the earlier referral, did not annul the processes that took place after the said referral. That is why you are here. So I just want to straighten the records, and then also know when your predecessor resigned, because we need to be careful with the dates. So since you don't have the letter here, and I will take chairman's leave, may I know from you when in February you assumed that acting role?
Mr. Chair, I cannot say the exact date in February, but I'll be happy to make the letter available today.
Yes, I'm not talking about the letter. The letter, that one is settled. I'm asking you as a person, when did you walk into that office as an acting Common Fund administrator? Because you have this on your records, and I may remind you that you are on oath, and all ex-parte engagements would have to cease.
Mr. Chair, I beg permission to refer to my calendar. Please do. Mr. Chair, I believe it was on Monday, the 17th of February.
Please repeat it.
Pardon me. It was on Monday, the 17th of March. Pardon me.
Okay, so today's date is 20th or 21st? Today is 20th. So you are now telling this committee that your first day in that office was the 17th.
Yes.
That was Monday, you mean?
Yes.
Monday the 17th.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
So would you want to take the leave of Mr. Chair to amend the records you have before you, which you become aware since it was posted? Because you said your office posted that you were the administrator February 2025. Now, you are telling us that you actually assumed that acting capacity on the 17th of March. So, would you then say that the February 2025 records would have to be amended? You put that information out there, not me. It is your document I'm relying on to engage in this exercise. Would you want to take the leave of chair to amend?
Well, Honorable Ranking Member, the nominee indicated clearly that he didn't alter. It is his office. So why would he be given the opportunity to correct what he is not the author? So, with all due respect, yes.
Chairman, with respect, we are lawyers. Fortunately, the two of us here are lawyers. I believe that we will continue to learn. If the nominee had said that he was unaware of this document, that's a different matter. If the nominee had said that he had not authorized this to be done, that would have been a different matter. My little understanding of the law is that when the nominee owns a person owns a document, yes, he says it was prepared by his office. However, he is owned it. He says that he has become aware of it. He knows that the office and those in the office are authorized persons, unless I should go further to ask you, Mr. Nominee, did you authorize this? In fact, he has acknowledged, accepted that indeed it was an official document. If this was done in error, I'm only urging upon him to amend this. That is all.
Honorable Member, he can speak to the error, having known the document, but to say that he should be the one to do the correction. No. The fact that you become aware of a document doesn't make you the author of that particular document to be asked to correct.
Chairman, we are not before a judge, so I wouldn't pursue it as a matter of law. Let me leave that to the jury. But, Honorable Nominee, having told this committee that you entered that office in acting capacity on the 17th of March, would you want to instruct your office to change this record, which is in the public domain? Because as at February 2025, you were not the administrator of Common Fund.
Mr. Chair, the letter naming me as acting administrator is actually dated in February. However, due to ill health and hospitalization, I was unable to assume the role until the 17th of March. However, if it pleases the chair, I'm more than happy to instruct that the record be corrected. Thank you.
Very well. Honorable Nominee, your personal email that you've provided to us, how long have you been using this email?
Mr. Chair, I actually do not remember which email address because I have a number of them.
Okay, so you have your CV with you? Because any question I ask you will be founded on the information you have given to us. I have nothing new to ask you except what you have given us. So please go through the CV you brought to us.
Okay, I have a copy of it now. Thank you.
Very well. So how long have you been using this email address?
I have used this email address for probably the last 4 or 5 years.
So we are in 2025. So like 2020.
Thereabouts, I think.
Read that email address aloud.
Mr. Chairman, it reads echo.emisa@ndc@gmail.com.
Hear that properly?
Echo.emisa.
Take your time, step by step.
It reads echo.emisa@ndc@gmail.com.
I see. echo.emisa.ndc in caps @gmail.com. Are you a member of the NDC?
Yes.
Are you a card-bearer member of the NDC?
A proud card-bearer member.
How long have you been a proud card-bearer member of the NDC?
Since the year 2008.
Have you contested any elections on the ticket of the NDC?
I have contested primary elections, but not any national election.
Which constituencies, please?
I contested in Esikmo-Odobin Brakwa district.
In a district election or
Sorry.
parliamentary?
Sorry, Esikmo-Odobin Brakwa constituency.
In the year 2019,
Mr. Chair.
Okay. You remember the results?
Vaguely, yes. Not the absolute numbers, but the percentages, yes.
Okay, so share with us.
I garnered 15% of the vote. My elder brother, Honorable Alhaji Kobna Gansa, I believe, garnered 80% of the vote.
And you have since not challenged him again?
No, Mr. Chair. I actually campaigned for him in 2020.
That's all right. I don't want to get into your NDC politics. That's all right. That's all right. Now, you are also the proud son of the respected Ishmael Yamson, correct?
Yes, please, Mr. Chair.
Going through your CV, you seem to have done a lot for yourself. Somebody will say you were born with a silver spoon in your mouth. What do you say to that?
Mr. Chair, I am grateful for the advantages that circumstances have given unto me, but I have been brought up by two very strict parents, and I think in our family we have many a story to tell about how privilege should not be misunderstood.
Now, you've stated your hometown to be Cape Coast. I want you to bring clarity to this for me. Is it your mom who comes from Cape Coast or your dad?
My mom is the one who hails from Cape Coast.
Daddy?
He hails from Bremen, Kontenassi.
Bremen. Okay.
Kontenassi.
So, I will do some two exercises with you from both places. Where exactly in Cape Coast does mommy come from, though?
Our family house is located on J.P. Brown Street, Kawanopado.
You've done so well for yourself internationally. Your dad has made a great name in the national space, an entrepreneur working in the private sector, consulting for private sector lately, talking about economic dialogue, how we should transform the economy, let the private sector play a critical role. Now, I'm interested in social responsibility back home. Can you share with me any social intervention projects that can attributed to you in your father's homeland in Bremen?
Mr. Chair, currently in our hometown, through efforts lobbying your former colleague, the Minister for Roads, we have our town roads being rehabilitated.
You mean referring to Asensu Boachi
Honorable
or Honorable Amakwata?
Yes.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
Go on.
So our town roads are being rehabilitated. I believe they are probably 95% done.
Town roads in Bremen?
Yes.
Oh, very well.
I've also been able to sponsor a few children to go to school, one of whom is now at Gimpa Law School.
Now, you've only listed two things. One intervention is public intervention. You lobbied the MPP government, the Roads and Highways Minister, and the MPP administration, Honorable Amakwata, to fix your town roads, which he did, 95%. I mean, this is a decent acknowledgement of how bipartisan MPP administration was and how you can reach out to the other side. So though you are an NDC, you reach out to the other side and you get a fair hearing. I want to know from you, the Ishmael Yamson family, if I enter Bremane Sikuma, I want to know what the Ishmael Yamson name is doing for the community. Is there any project in the name of the family? Those are the social interventions I'm referring to, in the name of the family.
Mr. Chair, and these I cannot attribute to myself, but when electricity was first brought to our hometown, it was my father then who single-handedly paid for the poles and the cables that were extended from, I can't remember the name of the town, I think it's Inkum, that brought electricity to our town. He also single-handedly funded the extension of water to our town. And over the years, he has, as I am following in his footsteps, supported several young people to acquire higher education as well. So I guess our investments have been in social infrastructure and in the people. But in terms of buildings, no.
I mean, honored admissions where you made intervention and all that. These are for the Ishmael Yamson as a person, and you were very clear. You have a rich background, successes. Today, you have the chiefs who are behind you, and they come with a certain expectation. You acknowledge that there is no infrastructure standing in your name for your community in Bremen. None from that as well. You may want to consider in future. Now, what about your maternal home, Cape Coast? Is there any single social intervention project that the people of Cape Coast can today say, Harry, born 1973, done so much for himself, upon all the successes in life, he came to provide for those at the lowest ebb of fortune's wheel. Cape Coast is a very poor community. Is there anything you've done in mother's homeland?
Not in my own name, no, thank you.
But in whose name, please?
In my grandmother's name.
Can you share?
My grandmother was for many years a devoted Catholic. And when she passed, she had been living with us for several years. But one of her last wishes was to see that we would renovate her parish in Ola. And so a year after she passed, my siblings and I indeed did honor her wishes and fund the rehabilitation of certain parts of the parish as was requested at the time.
So that is all about it?
Yes.
Very well. Let me also ask you this very important question. Did you do your national service?
No, Mr. Chair.
You know, in your time, after A-level, you do national service for 1 year. And then after university, you also do national service. Today, you are here to administer a public fund, and you are telling the Ghanaian people you never did your national service. You went to Leeds, came back. Unilever gave you a lot of opportunities. All these years, you have not done your national service. I see. I have not cited your tax exemption certificate yet. I have not cited your tax exemption certificate yet. Can you share with us if you have your tax exemption certificate? Oh, sorry for the wrong use of the word. I said tax exemption, tax clearance. I apologize. Tax clearance certificate. Do you have it with you?
Yes, Mr. Chair, a copy has been.
Check the name on it, because the one I have is not the one with your name. So I don't have yours with me. What I have is different. So check, maybe I have a different one. Read the name on that tax clearance certificate.
The name on it says Michael Harry Emisa Yamson.
Is that also Michael Harry Yamson? Is it one and the same person?
Yes. Mr. Chair, if I may clarify, for most of my life, I used Michael Harry Yamson. But at the time, when we were registering for the national identification document, I elected to put the full name as it appeared on my birth certificate, which is Michael Harry Emisa Yamson.
That birth certificate you are referring to, was it a birth certificate that you later acquired, or it was a birth certificate that you acquired before going to school?
It is the original birth certificate, Mr. Chair.
Honorable nominee, pay attention to my questions and remind yourself of answers you are also giving. I'll repeat. This birth certificate you are referring to, was it a birth certificate you acquired after completing O-level, A-level, and university, or it was a birth certificate you acquired prior to going to do your O-level, A-level, and your uni degree?
Mr. Chair, it is the original birth certificate which my mother had kept.
How then do you reconcile your earlier answer to the effect that on all your certificates you have Michael Harry Yamson? And I'm reminding you that earlier when I cited the EMISA, I put a question to you whether you have them on your certificate, and you said no, you don't have EMISA. You were first day born echo. That's fine. But where I sit, there are things I know. So I'll give you the opportunity again, just for clarity. I don't want my family members in Central Region say, I think you're in Central Region now, a grilling now, them. I had no more personal. One gets a was a matron and a years a can and the infant of our team want to mass. And yet, a Huawei no massam, the years before, and I years ago. In other words, I'm only relying on his own document to ask my questions. So now, I said the Fantis will say Afenyo, but my daddies will say Afenyo, Afenyo. That's the proper and law pronunciation. My uncles in Winneba will say Afenyo marking. But my daddies in Anlo, Chairman Yakonokwe, will say Afenyo. Chairman is enough.
Mr. Chair.
By the way, so clarity, all right? My name is Alexander Kwamena Afenyo Market. All my certificates, I have the Alexander Afenyo Marking without Kwamena. We all have it. So I want you to clarify. I don't use the Kwamena. I use it sometimes. I don't use it all the time. So I want to ask you, on your certificates, which names do you have on your certificates?
On all my certificates, my name is Michael Harry Yamson. As I explained when I was applying for my...
Let's proceed. So now that you have a national ID, Ghana card, and this Ghana card has Michael Ishmael Emisa Yamson.
Michael Harry Emisa Yamson.
Sorry. Your Ghana card has Michael Harry Emisa Yamson. The tax man, GRA, knows you also as Michael Harry Emisa Yamson.
That is correct.
Your certificates know you as Michael Harry Yamson. The president knows you to be Michael Harry Yamson. He doesn't know your emisa. Would you use the law to regularize this? You've already done it.
I have already done so.
So would you want to inform Mr. President that the old name has been changed and that the records at the presidency should be corrected, and for that matter, Parliament? Because we cannot know you and call you Michael Harry Yamson if your actual updated document, legally certified, is Michael Harry Emisa Yamson, as known by GRA. What's your advice?
Yes.
Tell us what your pleasure is now.
My pleasure would be to notify the president's records.
But you have been in possession of this notice of your appointment all these weeks. Chairman, can we proceed with the, or you grant leave? Because the name, these are legal matters, and you are a lawyer. Would you want to grant leave so that that ratification and rectification can be done later? Otherwise, I do not think that we can proceed. It's my suggestion to you, sir.
Honourable Member, let's proceed. The value is the same. He's one and the same person. However, he has indicated that he would communicate the addition to the President.
Chairman, our law students and our seniors and our colleagues at the bar, I'm sure, are watching us, and the judges are watching us. I know you said it on a lighter note, but the value is not the same. In law, the value is not the same. But, I mean, since he's taking notes to get it sorted out, that's fair enough. Now, you are coming from the private sector. Do you think that as a country, we often get social intervention programs aimed at getting some investment into the economy, end up becoming consumption? You think so?
Please, could you clarify that question?
All right. So we introduce some social intervention programs to empower our people to become economically strong, do their businesses and all. These are supposed to be paid back to the state for others to also benefit. Oftentimes, these monies go. They don't come back. So it becomes what we call consumption. You are the economist. I'm not one. So it's not an investment. Are you concerned about this? And if you are, what would be your proposal? And I say this because recently, Daddy expressed a worry in the economic forum, which the minority could not secure an invitation to participate. In fact, I as a leader was never invited. No letter came to the caucus. We were not invited. But that's a different matter. The old man expressed concern and even suggested that state-owned enterprises must move to the private sector so that they become profitable. Against this background, what is your suggestion to this government regarding social intervention programs for economic empowerment?
Mr. Chair, I want to ask for some clarity from you. Since my role does not make me a policy advisor to the President or the Cabinet, I report to Parliament. So am I advising Parliament here or the Presidency?
Oh, a general opinion. You are a private sector person, so not as an advisor, but we hear it's a public discourse. This engagement is to express views on national issues.
Okay.
The question is just soliciting for your opinion.
Okay. In my opinion, public good and efforts that are aimed at empowerment should not necessarily aim at profit. However, if they are to be funded appropriately there must be surpluses that are being generated from another part of the state apparatus to fully cover those costs. I think where we have struggled is that we often introduce social interventions without, shall I say, certainty about how we, from our own resources, will be able to cover. And so when the donor support or whatever help dries out, we are forced to carry on these programs essentially by printing money, and that is unsustainable. So my view is that by all means let us do good, because as the Bible says, the poor will always be among us. But we must make sure that we have adequate resources to fund those programs fully.
Are you a Catholic?
I was baptized a Catholic, but I am now a member of the Methodist Church of Ghana.
At what point did you become a Methodist?
Sometime in my teenage years.
But becoming a Methodist, were you a communicant?
I was a communicant.
So you came across in Francis of Assisi's prayer as a teenager?
Yes, I did. I went to St. Augustine.
The tax clearance certificate?
Yes, I have.
Now, look at 2023, 2024. The chargeable income that your accountant provided.
Yes,
Have you seen it?
correct.
So, your accountant says that your chargeable income monthly is 11,000 cedis. Consultant, big man, you mean this accountant was accurate with the facts? The 11,000 Ghana cedis? Are you very sure of what your accountant did? Or you would want to further, go through this with your accountant?
No, I don't need to.
So he declared faithfully that you earn 11,000 a month.
He declared faithfully.
And that is all your income. Yes, of course. That is all your chargeable income. Are you sure your accountant did what he was supposed to do correctly? Because I have documents here about other income. So I do not want it to be like I'm splashing. So I may want to give you an opportunity. Sometime when we are in a hurry, to get this certificate, because I note that because we were coming for vetting, he hurriedly put something together. Would you want to cross-check with him to ensure that he gets all the facts regarding your tax obligation? Maybe later on, so that you amend your records, or you insist on that, on what is provided.
I'm happy to cross-check with you.
Very
and
well.
come back.
Chairman, that will be all for the nominee.
Thank you very much, Honorable Togbi Osahin Alexander Kwamena Apanyumakin. We'll then proceed to take questions from the subject matter committee members, starting from Alexander Akwesi-Akwa. You have the floor. You are entitled to 3 questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, Mr. Nominee. In the last budget, which is still before Parliament, there was a proposal to send about 80% of the DACF to MMDAs. How feasible is this? And do you agree to this proposal?
You mean the last budget or the current
No,
budget?
the current budget, which
The
is
current
still
budget.
before
Okay.
Parliament, yeah. 2025, the big push budget.
Mr. Chair, in terms of feasibility, as a fund, it is entirely feasible. And as to whether I agree with it, I'm here as a nominee of the President. I respond to the President's policy directives. And I am clear about what the President is trying to achieve. And my task now is to give effect to that policy and then go further to ensure that the appropriate monitoring, the appropriate validation of expenditure in partnership with my brother, the Minister for Local Government, happens so that there is no misuse. I think the issue about whether I agree is born out of a concern as to whether there might be misuse of those funds. But I would suggest that between the local government ministry and the District Assembly's Common Fund, we have enough mechanisms to ensure that there is no misuse.
Okay, so as a follow-up, I asked about the feasibility of it because as a member of Parliament, I am aware that there are some programs and activities that are currently ongoing. And so if the new policy direction is to shift about 80% of the common fund to the assembly, how do we cater for these programs that are currently going on?
So, Mr. Chair, what I would say, though, is that the objective as stated by the President through the Finance Minister at this point in time remains the policy objective of the Executive. My task is to prepare a formula, to propose it to the Parliament of Ghana. And the Parliament of Ghana will have every right to accept it, to amend it, or reject it. I will act upon the final instruction that comes from this House. So I will present the policy objectives of the President, and I will leave it to your good selves to advise me on how to make amendments so that the final formula respects the policy objectives, but also addresses any concerns or advice that this House may have. I am aware that we do pay members of Parliament, we do require of members of Parliament a monitoring role. And so it will be very important to respect what your thoughts are also on how these things might be effected. Thank you.
Okay, another follow-up on that one. I'm sure so far you've had, you're privy to, yes, sir.
Still to one follow-up question. So ask another question.
I will oblige. Thank you so much. My second question has to do with another policy shift. The budget also proposed and allocated about 100 million Ghana cedis to be used as payments to assembly members. I want to ask your thoughts about that. How do you marry this proposal with Article 250, Clause 2, which requires the district assemblies to be in charge of emoluments and all payments to their members? Do you see a conflict there?
Mr. President, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chairman, I believe that this matter does not in any way fall within the purview of my work as administrator of the District Assembly's Common Fund. And therefore, I would beg your permission not to wade into an area where I have no expertise.
A follow-up, Mr. Chair. Well, let me rephrase my question. Don't you think this will reduce the motivation of MMDAs in their IGFs? Because I'm sure in the Constitution, the fact that the assemblies are supposed to determine how much they pay to their members will motivate them to increase their IGF, their collections.
Mr. Chair, it is my understanding that this should have, at best, a neutral effect, because the MMDA's share of the common fund actually rises as they increase their internally generated funds. Therefore, irrespective of how much help or grants are received from my office or the central government, it is still in their best interest to pursue IGF. And so I don't think that any such support should dampen the efforts of any MMDA to grow their IGF. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, last question. How do you intend improving on the transparency and the activities of the District Assembly's Common Fund?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The District Assembly's Common Fund has existed since 1994. In my short time at the fund, one of the things that I believe will help us is to improve our own technological capacity, to help us better understand how we're spending, the effectiveness of how we're spending, and the impactfulness of the money that we spend. I also feel that it is important that we make our information more publicly available. First of all, to enable the district assemblies themselves to also fulfill their mandate of the annual town halls. If we make our information available to all members of the public, then the assemblies can also go back and hold their town halls and then explain what benefits citizens can expect from the transfers that they receive from the fund. So I think these two steps will help quite a bit. As I spend more time and as my directors give me further briefing, I am sure that beyond publicizing our information and improving our technological capacity, there'll be other things that we can do to improve the transparency of our work. But these two things, I think, are most critical.
Mr. Chairman, last follow-up. In the preparation of the formula, who are some of the key players that you intend to consult?
Mr. Chair, my job is to prepare the formula for Parliament. And so my first consultation will be with the leadership, also with the local government committee to which I'm responsible for presenting the draft formula. I will also have to engage with the MMDAs as much as possible. I also, because I'm in a way part of the executive, also consult with my brother, the Minister for Local Government, my brother, the Minister for Finance, and the Chief of Staff.
You are done.
Jeff, if you oblige me one more.
Very well. I will give the floor to Honorable John Dako.
Good afternoon, sir.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
So, as the administrator of the District Assembly's Common Fund, are you accountable to Parliament or to the Minister? And what, in your view, do you think this accountability, whether Parliament or Minister, is going to play on your activities?
Mr. Chair, my accountability is wholly to this Parliament. It is to this Parliament that I present my draft formula. It is from this Parliament that I secure approval of the formula. It is to this Parliament that I will render my annual accounts if you give me the nod to assume office. And I think it's only in my fourth area of responsibility, according to the Constitution, that says that I may carry out any other duties as the President may decide. So 75% of my role is entirely to this House. The President may from time to time ask me to do something.
Yeah, but by way of follow-up, so you don't think that you are in any way accountable to the minister in charge of local government?
I believe by the Local Government Act, I do have a relationship with the Minister for Local Government. He presents our budget to Parliament, and to that extent, I am accountable to him to justify my budget and equip him to lay it before Parliament. In respect of the day-to-day activities at the DACF, I believe we're like twin brothers. He's the senior twin brother. But everything has to be done in consultation with him.
Okay. Looking at your CV, I get the impression that you don't have any experience in the local governance sector of our country. Everything you've had or you've done is in the private sector. So with this handicap that you have, how do you intend to make the DACF better to achieve its objective, which mainly, I guess, is to distribute funds? Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I believe the first two occupants of this office were also not local governance experts. My immediate predecessor, to a large degree, is. But I would say that fresh blood is good for every organization. I have tremendous experience. I've managed budgets 3 times the size of this fund and done so successfully. I have a wonderful team at the DACF. The ministry, my brother, the minister, assures me of his support. And so I'm extremely confident that in addition to all of this, with the guidance of the House, there is no way I will fail the DACF. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Chairman, I have a follow-up.
Honorable member, let me give the opportunity to the questioner to see whether he has a follow-up. Then I can give you the floor. Do you have a follow-up?
Yes. Okay. So if we'll follow up.
You don't have the follow-up.
I can give to my senior.
Very well. Very well.
No, I'm not done. After that, I can come back to my.
Very well. Then you come back to your last question.
But Chairman, by right, he has a follow-up, and after he asks his follow-up, by right, I can also ask a follow-up. So if he doesn't have a follow-up, that's okay.
That is why the practice is that if a member asks a question and he has a follow-up, we give the member the opportunity to exhaust, so that if the leadership has a follow-up on the question asked by the member, it is then that you can come in. That is the point that I'm making. So I'm trying to find out from John Darko whether he has a follow-up on the nominee's experience question that he asked. But if not, I will then give you the floor.
All right. Thank you, Chairman. Mr. Nominee, in your answer to Honorable John Darko's question, you said you have managed a fund that is 3 times the current fund, referring to DACF. Is that what you said?
No, I said I have managed funds, not a fund.
You have managed funds?
Yes.
So can you share with us what funds and what you mean exactly by 3 times the size of DACF?
Well, in my last role, okay,
Please.
right.
You
So
can answer the question without necessarily disclosing any corporate secret.
thank you very much. Thank you very much. So, in the private sector, we don't manage, unless you're a fund manager. I worked in FMCG and telecoms. So we manage budgets. In one of my roles, I was responsible for
Please go ahead.
So in one of my roles, I was responsible for managing a budget that amounted to €1.5 billion, which in today's terms is about 18 billion cedis. So.
Thank you very much. Honorable John Dako, your last question.
All right. Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. Honorable nominee, are you aware of the DRIP policy by the previous government, and do you think that it is something that the DACF must continue on and, as it were, push to ensure that our district assemblies have the equipment to fix the roads in their areas?
Mr. Chair, if I may take a step back, I believe that over the years, I think 2002, 2011, 2014, under Presidents Kufuor, Mills, and Mahama, we made efforts as a country to equip our districts. And so the District Road Improvement Program initiated by the last government was one step in the continuation of these efforts. Our districts do deserve to have the equipment. And I believe that under the arrangements that were made, the districts took possession of the equipment. What we have is a national coordinator to oversee the use of the equipment and the maintenance of the equipment. I think those arrangements are in order. And whether or not I am supporting DRIP directly from Accra, or whether DRIP will be supported from the districts, I believe that rural Ghana cannot do without the program. So I support it.
By way of follow-up, Mr. Chairman? Yeah. So do you subscribe to those who say that the equipment should be taken from the districts and be sent to one central place, that they should be pooled for people to use them as and when they need, and that the equipment should not be at the district and municipal assembly? Do you subscribe to that?
First of all, I'm not aware of that argument. But if I were, what I would say is that it would be in my formula when I present it where the control should lie, where the funds should sit, and it will be your decision as members of parliament to instruct me accordingly.
Very well. Honorable Habib, you have a follow-up. I think, John Dako, you have exhausted your 3 questions and the follow-ups.
Chairman, thank you. Still on the drips. I think in your answer, you are just explaining and then telling us the position of it. But you know that the former administrator did very well in bringing these drip machines to us. But what is your own view about the drip project?
Mr. Chair, as I stated earlier, it is a project that I believe is a positive continuation of efforts that date back to 2002.
He answered the question. The view, he said that it's a positive project. That is
So if you say it's a positive project, then you definitely need to, he need to, appreciate and thank the former administrator and the former president for bringing this initiative. So why you just bring your view without saying that the MPP government did well,
Honorable Habib,
Madam Natoshi did excellent.
Honorable Habib, you are out of order. I will proceed to give the floor to Honorable Alikuli Makurugu.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Congratulations in advance, my brother.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I have gone through your CV, and I have seen that in the private sector, you are well experienced. So I have no doubt that this mantle that has been given to you, you are going to perform very well. But I have a question. Every year, a number of financial malpractices and losses are reported at the MMDAs. With your experience in the private sector, how do you intend to ensure transparency and prevent mismanagement at the District Assembly Common Fund? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As I indicated earlier, I do believe that there are modern tools that allow us, applications, AI, that allow us to better interrogate our numbers far more sharply than in the past was available to us. I've been at the DACF a week now, and it's been apparent to me that we cannot run a 7 billion fund essentially off Excel. We need sharper tools. Number one. Number two, when we spend money at the DACF, we look to make an impact on the quality of education, the quality of health, the quality of roads, the quality of access to water that people in our districts enjoy. In no way a criticism, but as I said, newer tools will give us a sharper view to understand better how much of the money we spend actually translates into a more positive change in the lives of the citizens in our various districts. We have always done monitoring as a DACF. We have increased the amount of monitoring that is being done under my predecessor. I believe monitoring was increased to 6 times a year. And that is good. What we need to do is to improve the ability of the center to interrogate its own activities and the expenditure that takes place at the districts from funds that it supplies. So monitoring will help us always to establish the facts on the ground. But I believe that better technological tools will help us understand better the effectiveness of how we are spending money. In the end, we're able to deliver more and better resources to our districts. And I think that your good selves as representatives would be happy and happier if we spend our money even more efficiently. So thank you.
Any further question?
Yeah, second question. Often at times, the disbursement of the common funds to the assemblies delay, sometimes second to even third quarters. how do you plan to deal with a timely disbursement of funds to the Assembly? Thank you.
Mr. Chair, yesterday I was part of a meeting with the Minister of Finance, and he gave me every assurance that now, as my funds accrue, he will pay. And I also gave him an assurance, and I can give this House the same assurance, that as your funds accrue, however you approve the formula to stand, I will also disburse in a very timeous manner.
No further questions. I wish you all the best.
Thank you very much.
Honorable Haji Aladi Ayamba, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And you are welcome to the vetting committee. Looking at your employment history, I have no doubt you have a wealth of knowledge and experience up there, not only for yourself, but to many people. And I believe you are going to bring it to bear. Common Fund has been one of the places where we actually rely on, especially for our district assemblies. For now, we know that in disbursement, there is only 5% being sent to the assemblies, and it's woefully, I would say, inadequate. The district assemblies are not worthy in the same length. You cannot take a district assembly in Accra and measure it with a district assembly in Pusiga. But then, we are happy with what we are being given because at least we have that support. Will you, as an officer and administrator who is going to ensure the implementation of government policy, support government to increase that allocation of 5% to 7.5% as envisaged by the current government?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Firstly, I think my president has already demonstrated a clear willingness through the finance minister to increase the funds that are available to our MMDAs. Just roughly speaking, based on 2024 DACF budget, districts were to receive something in the region of 2.2 billion Ghana cedis. Per the policy objective stated in the budget, districts would receive something in the region of 5.7 billion if approved. Now, this will obviously impact the funds that honorable members receive. It will also impact the monies that are available. The 95% of that 5.7 billion will now be available to our MMDAs. So even before we go beyond 5%, effectively this government intends to, with your permission, to double the budget of the assemblies. And I think that is, the president is to be commended for this. That said, there are countries in our region that devote 30% of funds directly to their districts. But I believe that over time, they have built the infrastructure and the architecture to enable the districts manage that portion of the national budget. I think that it is my job now at DACF to begin the process of preparing our districts to also receive and manage larger portions of our fund. Granted, from 2007 to 2017, we stood at 7.5%. Yesterday, I made an entreaty that as soon as it is possible, we raise the level back to 7.5%. And then, we will invest in upskilling MMDAs and the technical people there, so that hopefully one day soon, we too can see our districts being entrusted with a third of the national budget. Thank you.
Any further question?
Mr. Chairman, from this response, I would say I'm good to go. And congratulations. You see, this bye-bye, you would have to pay for it too. I'll have to register it. So I would say I'm very grateful. Congratulations and bye-bye.
Yeah. Members, why are you forcing Hajia to say bye-bye? It's now the turn of Honorable Patrick Yaubama.
Thank you, Chair. I have one question for the administrator. Congratulations. And,
thank you, sir.
I hope you serve your members of parliament well, like your predecessor did. You can ask the local government minister.
Certified.
Do you know of the reserve fund and what it is used for?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I am aware of the reserve fund, and I am aware of the purposes to which it is put.
May we know the purpose or the use of the reserve fund?
Firstly, the reserve fund is a contingency. Anything can happen. I think in the last few weeks, days, we've had tidal waves in the Volta region. In 2021, we had COVID. A few months ago, we had cholera. All these are matters unforeseen that require a response from government, a response from local governments. The Reserve Fund serves the purpose of holding funds to support any districts that come into a situation which require resources beyond their allocations. Secondly, the Reserve Fund is also used to fund training, capacity building. I think as I was answering Honorable Akrogu's question, if we are to train our district officers to handle ever larger amounts of the national budget, that training will be funded from the reserve budget. And then also from time to time, there are opportunities for local investments to be made, which the assemblies may not be able to fund. And so we take care of that from the reserve fund. So it's really there for the MMDAs as and when it becomes critical.
Thank you, Chairman, for the opportunity, and I'll be keeping an eye on that particular fund and how you intend using it. I wish you the very best. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'll give the floor to Honorable Alhaji Umar.
Thank you, Chairman. Congratulations, Honorable and Mr. Harry Yamson.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I have a question which is of interest to MPs. Now, MPs in managing their 5%. Are you aware of the conflicts between MPs in accessing the 5% and the district's chief executives? If you are aware, what plans do you have to solve this or resolve it, mitigate those conflicts?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It is my understanding that from time to time, conflicts do arise. Sometimes it is the assembly that has to make right. and sometimes it is the member of parliament that has to make right. But I think that as in my role, the most important thing is to try to bring both sides together and seek advice, first of all, from leadership, from the local government committee and my brother, local government minister, because I think they hold the primary relationships, first of all, with the members of parliament and second with the MMDAs, and try and bring resolution to the matters. My task will always be to make sure that the disbursements do arrive at the assemblies in a timeous manner, but where issues arise as to the use of the fund or the release of the fund to a particular project, I think once I become aware, I'll try and bring interested parties together to get a quick resolution. At the end of the day, my function is to make sure that money translates into development. Thank you.
Please do.
Thank you. This conflict normally comes between the sitting government, DC, and opposition MP, when the MP is in a different party. And I say this because I want to find, as a victim, that there must be a way when you execute your projects that the district, when the DC even refused to sign it, there should be another channel for it to go through once the project has been executed. I say this because I drill boreholes, more than 20, and they refuse to pay for it. I even went to your your office, and still, the DC refused to pay for it. The community started benefiting, using the water, and yet, because the purpose was to remove him from office. You don't understand the question? Thank you. So how do we make sure we have monies whereby the DC cannot prevent you from paying for your project? Thank you.
The authority is given to the DCE to sign disbursement form, based on which the district finance officer and the coordinating director will also sign check. If the DCE wants to remove you as a member of parliament, definitely disbursement form will not get signed. That is what is causing the problem. Yes. Any further question? I'll give the floor to Jerry Ahmed Shai.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair, I've observed that Honorable Irina Toshiado, my very beautiful sister, is here. It tells me that there is solid collaboration between the yes, collaboration. And I pray that you take a cue. Yes, Mr. Chair, my question is, I have observed that the regional coordinating councils do not make any monies. I don't think they have a platform to generate IGFs. Would you, in your current position, would you advocate that they benefit from the DACF releases? And if so, why? Thank you.
Mr. Chair, the regional coordinating councils are already supported by the DACF. We resource them to be able to implement their mandate of coordination, monitoring, and evaluation. We also resource them where it's necessary in matters of conflict resolution. And then finally, we also resource them to engage in capacity building as appropriate. And we will continue to do so.
Thank you very much. Honorable Shaibu.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Mike, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Let's do public-private sector stuff. You and I come from the Unilever Group, where a purely private corporate with very good systems, internal control systems, and many others. I mean, we're moving into a public sector that is completely different from. I'm very worried for you. But convince us, how would you juxtapose the two and then get into a smooth transition to get this going?
Thank you very much, my senior brother. I think one of the things that a life as a senior executive prepares you for is just to understand that every organization has its own rhythm. And that's the way I look at it. If I'm working in Unilever as a marketing manager, the pace of my life is very different from when I'm sent to South Africa as a regional manager. And so where you find yourself, wherever you find yourself, it's very important to understand how the place ticks. At the DACF, I've only been there a week, but I am learning how the DACF operates. Not only the mandate, but the interpersonal relationships, the procedures, certain arrangements that facilitate the work that we do. And so my job, I believe, as the head of the DACF, if I get the nod today, is first of all to come to a very good understanding of what has been placed in my charge. And once I understand what has been placed in my charge, to ensure that I leverage it to deliver the mandate that the President has given and the authorizations that the Parliament give to me as far as the disbursement of the funds are concerned. I think I've garnered enough experience over the time of my working life to manage what is a fairly large organization, but it's not too complex an organization.
I wish I have any further question.
Yeah. Chairman, just a very last one. On some social intervention programs that are under the DFAC, would you consider some other programs that are outside of the DFAC, social intervention programs?
Mr. Chair, I will be consulting with members of this House and the local government committee in preparing the formula. And I think at that point, if there are any social interventions that are critical and require the support of the fund, I'll factor that into the proposal that I bring for consideration. And then if you approve it, we will execute them. So I will depend on you to advise on whatever critical things we ought to do.
Chairman, thank you so much. I have no doubt that you will make a good administrator.
Thank you.
I wish you all the best.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief Whip. I realize you are writing plenty questions. Please, you are. Before giving you the floor, let me recognize Honorable Charles Agbeve, Subject Matter Committee member.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I'm just asking a question, just one question. Honorable Harry, congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Good. There's a view that some MMDAs have been heavily relying on the DACF and not maximizing revenue. What's your opinion about this? And just to add and answer your question, will you recommend winning some metropolitan assemblies of DACF? Because some of them, the IGF is even bigger than what you give them as DACF.
Mr. Chair, to the extent that even in large metropolitan areas, you find that there are constituencies and sub-metros that are unevenly developed. I feel that the DACF should continue to support all local assemblies. What may need to happen, and as I said earlier, is for us to get sharper in deciding where to put our money. It may well be that we're spending too much on tarred roads in a place that already has a lot of tarred roads. And so we should redirect some of that money. I noted, for example, 3 sub-metros, Esika Doketan, Odododio, and Swame. They have vastly different levels of support coming from the DACF. And yet, they are all sub-metros within metropolitan areas. We need to better understand why those differences occur. That's what I can promise you. We will do a better job at equalizing that. To the point of the IGF, I would encourage every MMDA to do their very best, because the more IGF you collect, the greater your share of the DACF. Some assemblies don't even collect burial fees, and yet others do. And so they are losing an opportunity to raise DACF on a line item that is fairly common across the country. Some assemblies collect parking fees. Most assemblies do not collect parking fees. And yet this is a very easy way of raising your IGF and a legitimate way of raising your IGF. Beyond that, what I would say is that I see a I see a local government area no different from an Apple store. It is just a market space. What is important is for the committees of the local assembly to apply a little bit more time to defining what market spaces they can create and raise money from. And we will be very happy at the DACF to support them with workshops, training, to help them better define the market spaces that are available. Everybody is building physical markets, but we may have gone past the time of physical markets. Today, e-commerce is probably the fastest growing part of our economy. And I don't think that there are many assemblies that have averted their minds to how they can tap into the e-commerce phenomenon and make money from that as well. So we'll be encouraging them and supporting them as much as we can. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'll proceed to give the floor to Majority Chief Whip, Roxanne Nelson Kwame Eche Dafamako.
Chairman, thank you very much. Mr. Michael Yamson Jr., you're welcome.
Thank you, my brother.
And congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Now, I've had a lot of calls about party people, even government functionaries, that you are not known in NDC, so why are you being given a position that was occupied by a former member of parliament on the ticket of the MPP. So the law is very clear as to the authority of the appointing officer to make appointments. But what's your relationship with the NDC government? Party as in government?
Honorable member, his email address even answered the question.
No. So the people who have called me chairman, the party people who thought that you are a stranger, so to speak. Are you a stranger to the NDC?
Mr. Chairman, I would believe that I'm not a stranger to the NDC. I worked on
any further question?
Yes. Chairman, thank you. Mr. Yamson, you are going to administer a fund that often gets releases delayed. And as a result, you're also unable to release funds to MPs for them to do their work in the various constituencies. And it's a big bother for my people. You've indicated that you've engaged with the finance minister and that some measures will be streamlined regarding timeous releases. The MP's common fund, it's so small. A lot of people don't know. It's so small. And what is worse is that MPs are not signatories to the MP's common fund assembly. The DC, the accountant, and the DFO, or in some cases, the coordinating director, they are signatories. MPs only direct. Now, as the new person in charge, will you consider policy change? Will you consider a policy change to give MPs some leverage, especially in areas where there are obvious, apparent disagreements between a sitting elected member of parliament who is serving for a fixed term and the leadership of the assembly? Some leverage. Yes and no, just for me, yes and no will be fine.
yes.
Thank you very much. Now, DRIP. Questions have come up about DRIP. Will you consider the former administrator advanced some monies or allocated some monies for the operation of the machines between, if I recall, between October to January for about 4-month period? Will you consider auditing how those funds were utilized for the period? Because the funds were specifically located and allocated for specific reasons. Payments to operators, for instance. How much you go for fuel, for instance. How much you go for monitoring, for instance. Will you consider auditing that so that we can have some appreciation of how that was utilized within that 4-month period?
I do believe that the 2024 audit of the DACF will cover that issue, but if the House, if the committee so desires, we can ask for a specific report for you.
As a follow-up, I am asking this because as part of the directive for that disbursement, it was specifically requested that some management committee be set up to manage the DRIP for that period. In most cases, those committees were not formed. So sometimes only the DC managed it. In some cases, the DC with the coordinating director. That committee to manage the fund was not done. That's why I think that a special audit will be required. If you agree with me, yes. If you don't, then I can make progress.
Mr. Chair, I'm in agreement with the Majority Chief Whip.
Okay. Now, again about drip, follow-up. The drip machines have been acquired. I don't think you'll be acquiring new ones. So, the payment for these machines were also catered for in the last formula that Parliament approved as a result of some outstandings. Can you assure this committee that you, in coming back to Parliament with a new formula, you have some information on the payment in respect of the drip machines as acquired?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Now, Chairman, finally, let me find out from you that as members of Parliament, we often want to have some relationship with the administrator, so the member of Parliament can walk in to do follow-ups, to make inquiries. Where you have emergencies, like I do have in my constituency, rainstorm, ripping off roofs of buildings, flood, communities are in distress. Some MPs, including myself, we haven't had pleasant experiences. Will you consider being fair and open to every member of Parliament, irrespective of partisan colors, to receive them, listen to them, attend to them as elected representatives of their people? Can you assure the committee and Parliament and the people of Ghana that you do that?
Mr. Chair, I can assure this committee, the Parliament and the people of Ghana that the office of the administrator will in no way disfavor certain members of the House. In my first meeting with my staff, I did say we may be political, but we are not partisan. The administrator's office has to be non-partisan because the mandate we have is to reduce inequities in development for all Ghanaians. That says nothing about political color. So my objective is, and what would be my joy would be to be able to say that at the end of my tenure, I could speak to reductions in the inequities in development across the country. Thank you very much.
Chairman, thank you very much. I wish you well. You can count on me as the Chief Whip, Government Chief Whip, to assist you to deliver on your mandate. Your wife is my classmate, so I have your back. Chairman, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. I will proceed to give the floor to Honorable George Kweku Ricket Hagan, the Vice Chairman of the committee.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Yamson, congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
But now I know I will come after you. I see, thank you. I just asked him, I didn't know that he comes from Cape Coast. Congratulations once again. And I think it's quite refreshing to have, somebody like you coming from the private sector into a public space and bringing, as you rightly said, new blood to look at how we can do things differently and better. Your predecessor, I think, did a fantastic job. She was at some stage was one of us here in Parliament, so she obviously understood how Parliament works. I believe that you will take all those things, you will learn from her and add it to your private sector experience and make the Common Fund administration work much better. Thank you. Just one more thing, not yet. One more thing is there's something that I think you should fundamentally understand, which is something that you will have to learn to be able to know how much is due the fund. As you know, by constitution, it's 5% of total revenue. But what is your understanding of total government total revenue if you take, tax and stuff in addition to that?
Remember, the constitution says not less than 5%. So it can be more.
Okay. I mean, that is not even the question. It can be more. That's what the constitution says. But for it to be more or less, you have to understand what total revenue is. So what is your understanding when we say government says total revenue?
Mr. Chair, per my understanding, total revenue of government in this context relates to tax revenue, oil revenue, minerals revenue. I think that's in essence, yes. Some elements of the oil revenue, the Heritage Fund, the Stabilization Fund, were excluded from the calculation. But other than that, every revenue of government falls into the definition of total revenue.
That is fine. You did say something earlier on when one of our colleagues asked you whether the size of the portfolio or the size of the fund that you are going to manage is something that you are capable of. And you do say that you have managed funds about 3 times the size of what the common fund is. I don't want you to mention the number of what the size of the common fund is, but I do believe you and I agree with you, because the whole of Ghana's economy itself is about $70 billion. That's about 200 or so. So if you look at that, if you said you did one, you can do about 3 times it. Then you are talking about even $200 million, which in this day and age in the private sector, as far as funds and assets are concerned, there are people who are managing, in excess of 1 trillion. So I have no doubt that you are capable of doing that. I would like to congratulate you, and I hope that you will work with leadership of Parliament closely so that, we will be able to make a success of our work. But as you are a Fanti man, I'll be coming to make sure that we do. We know we Fantis.
We shall meet and drink tea.
All right. No. What I did say, Fanti, means that we are very disciplined. We are very disciplined people. So when we are doing things, we do it, to the best of our abilities. Mr. Minister, thank you very much and congratulations.
It's now the turn of Deputy Ranking, Honorable Patricia Apiaje, alias Kumasi Rolanda.
I'm even surprised at you. Anyway, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to congratulate you and welcome you for this few, it's a brief.
Thank you, Ma'am. Thank you very much.
Yes, I know the common fund. There are 5 critical factors that has always been considered in the share of the district common fund since its inception. And these have been the need, responsive, service pressure, reserve, and equality factor. Honorable nominee, the government has just announced, on the basis of that is what I'm asking this question. The government has just announced free tertiary education for people with disability through the budget paragraph 200. But the question is, how many people with disability are able to be educated to the tertiary level? We have a missing gap. And I am asking you, would you propose a policy whereby the monies allocated for the PWDs at this point in time will be used to construct special schools at least at every region? I think that need is non-existent. Would you critically look at that one and propose as a policy to guide you in your development of, in your distribution of the common fund? Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I can say yes to that.
Honorable nominee, I know for a fact that this is a House of Records, and I'm going to hold on you to that promise.
I will be consulting the leadership on all things.
My other factor is about the uncompleted infrastructure that exists within the MMDAs. You know, a number of times, I think the Chief Whip was emphasizing on the amounts of monies that are distributed, even for the MPs, even in the districts. There are not adequate funds for them to begin the construction of certain structures. I would like to find out for you, what would be your strategy to ensure that you can monitor and insist that projects that cannot be completed will not be undertaken by the use of the common fund? Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I believe that the most important, one very critical element in all significant capital project planning is an understanding of future cash flows. For me, sitting at the DACF, I work with the amounts that are allocated on a year-by-year basis. Government's own forecasts may give some indication, and that may help us to also project forward whether or not we can actually execute the projects we start in good time. I think what has really caused delays in the past has been the availability of funds coming into the DACF. But I intend to maintain that relationship with leadership to help me to engage with the Finance Ministry to ensure that funds that are due come quickly. But as I said earlier today, the Finance Minister yesterday in an engagement with some of us leaders, heads of funds, did make clear to us that he intends to make our releases literally automatic. So that means that we can look forward to regular inflows. And I gave an assurance that I will similarly ensure that the districts receive their money just as quickly as we receive it. All we need is finality on the policy objectives from the executive and the approval of this House when I do present the formula for consideration. But we will make sure that we don't start things we cannot finish.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I'd like to find out from the nominee on an issue of equality. I know that the affirmative action law has been passed, and Just a moment ago, Honorable Patrick Boama was asking you about the reserve fund, the application of it. Would you consider in your formula to assign some monies for the implementation of the Affirmative Action Act implementation, the act, in order to facilitate, first to create the awareness and also to be able to achieve the levels that is required within a year or two? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As I earlier indicated, we do make funds available for capacity building. We do make funds available for training. I think in the course of preparing the formula, we can look at this particular issue, and with your permission, I will include it in the final document and implement it as you direct.
So, dream coordinators. Anyway, on my final question, Mr. Chairman, it's a matter of interest. What is Dr. Ishmael Evans Yamson to you?
He's my father.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
I'm
ma'am.
wondering why you would choose your father as a referee on your CV. Is it the case that you've worked so closely with him all these years that's why you have put down his name as one of your referees? Thank you.
Mr. Chair, my father, I actually call him chairman. He's been my boss my entire life. In Unilever, he was my chairman. And when I left Unilever, I initially set up my own firm and then decided to join his consultancy. So he's literally, for my entire career, been my boss. And I don't remember when I call him dad. Normally I call him chairman or sir. And so he has a dispassionate view. He can speak to what I'm capable of and not capable of. So
I know for a fact that in an Akan language, we say, "One ordinance being kumbachre nifikwan." So, to wait, who is going to use its left hand to direct people to their house? It is, I think it's an issue of ethical practices. Maybe we should be looking at that one. It's a matter for debate at one point in time. Thank you. Thank you very much, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you, Mom.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honourable members, it's now my turn to ask the nominee question. Instead of question, I'll ask for clarification. If you look onto your CV, item numbered 5, employment history. A, work history, including national service. What do you mean by that?
Honorable Chair, that's the heading that was on the document that came to me. The A is part of the official document that came to me.
You are just quoting the heading.
Yes, please.
Under the National Service Authority Act, there is a provision for those who have not done their national service to apply for exemption, subject to some payment. Will you want to do that?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Well, that is the end of my question. Honourable members, I will proceed to acknowledge the revered guests seated behind the nominee in the following classifications. 1, family members. We have Ishmael Felix Yamson, Lucy Yamson, Gloria Yamson, William Yamson, Annie Judith Agbodo, Mrs. Lucy Yamson. 2, friends, Anita Baini, Nana Yao Baini, Leonard Tosu, Bernard Owusu Chumesi, Mr. Raj Mohan. Clergy, Pastor Albert Apia. National Democratic Congress, Ambassador Edith Hazel, Samuel Adom Bochwe, Esikuma Odoben Brakwa. We have Henrietta Kakra Apia, Alex Kwesi Asari, Mr. Kwefi Kwejiri Kwenu, Emmanuel Kweku Asan, Nana Elda Esi Brempong, Shridom Hini of Akumfi, Esuesha. Okay. Traditional leaders. We have Nana Odum Silfi III, Breman Kuntunasi Hini. Yes. We have Nana Kunti Hini, Brema Asekuma. We have Nana Akosua Yebua, Asantiwa, Queen Mother of Brema, Nuomasu. We have Cape Coast family. We have Abigail, Susanna, Afaji. We have Patience, Damte, Abraham, Ibo, Kakraba. And I can see Honorable Neilante Vanderpoy,
National Grid Coordinator,
alias Mankani Yekra. We also have Honorable Arena Toshi Ado, the immediate past Common Fund Administrator. You are all welcome.
Friend of Parliament.
The Honorable Minister for Local Government, Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs is also here. Honorable Ahmed Ibrahim. You are most welcome. Honorable nominee, thank you so much for attending upon Chief Director Alhaji Amin. You are welcome. Honorable Ganza, I recognize you. The nominee promised not to contest you again. And I think you are happy to hear this. Yes. You are welcome. Honorable nominee, I thank you very much for attending upon the committee and providing, in my opinion, honest answers to questions posed to you. We are most grateful. You will surely hear from the committee. You are accordingly discharged.
Ganza, see you were contesting him. Now you go to him. Yes, life, you see.
Okay, leader. Then.
Media for